Zoom and participating with us today. If you will identify yourself, unmute yourself, identify yourself if you want to speak at the public hearing or at the public comment. Anybody that's on Zoom.
Luke Thomas with Jackson Kelly on behalf of HG Energy.
Okay, hold on one more time. Will you write it down?
Mm-hmm.
One more time.
Luke Thomas with Jackson and Kelly representing HG Energy.
Okay.
This is Joe Nassif with Piper Sandler, and I'm working on the TIF project.
All right.
And I'm calling in by phone. I'm having some trouble getting in by Zoom, and so I'm sorry, by video. Thank you.
All right. Anyone else?
You have Jason Berger from Olenbeck, USA.
Okay, Jason. Anyone else? All right, when we call you out, you can unmute yourself and then speak. Tommy, are these on any of our stuff, or is this just for public comment?
Joe Nassif would be probably for the TIF item. That's likely it.
Joe, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Anyone in attendance here that would like to speak during our public comment period?
Mr. Shepherd, Matt Shepherd.
Okay, have you all signed up?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's got the list over there. Good.
And I believe Mr. Thomas is going to be speaking regarding item 13. And he's Mr. Luke Thomas with HG Energy.
All right. And, okay. So we'll keep him until item 13. The rest of them will be public comment with the exception with Tom. Everybody's practicing good health. We have our masks, social distancing where we can. Don't touch, wash your hands. 1,700 died overnight. All right, when Mr. Hinkle comes. That'll be great. Thank you. I wanted to tell Mr. Parker, watching the news last night, I mean, clerical errors happen all over the country. So where Detroit had their issues. All right, if we'll call the Harrison County Commission meeting to order. If you'll please rise. We'll have the invocation by Mr. Harris, and then we'll do the pledge to the flag.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we give you thanks for this day, another day of life, another day filled with your goodness and blessing. We ask that you would just be with this meeting. Father, we pray you'd be with our county commissioners as they deliberate and consider items that are of grave importance to our community. We ask that you grant them wisdom and knowledge, Lord, in all ways, that those decisions would benefit the folks who live in this community. We're grateful for our county. We're grateful for those who step forward to lead us. And we just pray your wisdom and guidance now in their lives. Bless this meeting and all that's said and done. We pray in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Jim. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. business at 10 o'clock. We have Tom Amon, Steptoe and Johnson. Come on up, Tommy.
Good morning, Commissioners.
All right, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So you'll recall, this is the, what I call the North Central Crossroads TIF, generally at the intersection of 50 and 79 that's being proposed. You have some folks here from the development team. I think Mr. Chris Lane is the president of Ron Lane Enterprises, and Carrie Cecil, their counsel with Frost Brown Todd. So where we are right now is the commission had previously adopted a resolution which set a public hearing date for today. That's been advertised in the newspaper. So we've got that on the agenda. The official action that's being considered is adoption of a resolution by the commission which would authorize the submission of the TIF application for the creation of the district, and also the project plan for the district to the West Virginia Development Office for consideration of approval. The Development Office would then have a period of time to 60 days to consider the application, get back to the commission with any comments that they may have or any changes they might like to see in the application. Typically, we don't see that. I think the idea here would be to try to get an approval from the Development Office this calendar year, but then not actually follow through and complete the district until next year in 2021. And that way, you can take advantage of another year, July 1, 2020 base assessed value for the district, and get, a full 30 years from that date. They're proposing ultimately to issue, that the county commission would issue bonds that would be placed with the developer, Ron Lane Enterprises, to pay for costs associated with, your typical TIF infrastructure build-out project that you're used to seeing, roads, utilities, site development, and it would be done in phases over a period of time. There's a development schedule in the application that calls for a certain amount of the private development to occur approximately, I think, over about a 10-year period. It's a mix of uses with light industrial, commercial, retail, and some office space. And what they have in mind as to the investments of those different types of uses over that 10 or so year period is kind of laid out in the application. Based upon those anticipated private investments, there's a bond model that's in the application that shows, based upon the anticipated tax increment revenues that would be generated if that development occurred as anticipated, an amount of bonds that could be issued, placed with the developer, Ron Lane Enterprises, or an affiliate of the developer, for purposes of paying for those infrastructure costs. So in this initial phase, like a lot of the other TIFs that we've done, I think it's anticipated that obviously the developer would bear the initial risk of building out the infrastructure, financing that cost, that the private development will come that's necessary to repay the bonds. And then once we see that private development, the revenues are being collected, then at that point you can look at maybe refinancing those bonds with a bank or another institution. So that is a general overview. The developer, I'm sure, or council could provide any more details about what's planned for the development, et cetera. But that's the general process and where we are right now in that.
Tommy, today is for a public hearing on this.
Yep.
And do we have to, is there a requirement for more than one public hearing, even though this would last over into 2021?
No.
So this really is the final, and our action would be to take the information received and then to move on from there, correct?
Yes, correct.
I see Chris Lane, part of the development here. Chris, is there anything you want to add to what Tommy has already shared with the commission and everyone? Okay.
Pretty much laid
All right. Without further ado, we'll open up the public hearing on this matter. And who do we have? Do we have anyone in the audience that want to speak at the public hearing? Not the public comment, but public hearing. Jim, come on up, identify yourself for the record, and
So I'm Jim Harris, and my address is 902 Oak Street in Anmore, and this proposed development is in our neighborhood. And so I came today to just discuss with the commissioner, listen to what's being proposed. We have met with Chris, some of the neighbors there, had some concern about water issues coming from the development on the west side. We're on the west side of this proposed development. He came and met with us. We've had some meetings with some engineering folks as well. And so at this point, I think that we're really okay with the plan. We're delighted, actually, about the development. I think it's wonderful for Harrison County. And so just wanted to mention that we've had these ongoing discussions, and he's assured us that with the permitting process, that we think they'll be able to manage the water that would be created by, taking away trees, building parking lots, and that sort of thing. We're probably several years down the road for it to come to the west side of the development, as I understand the plan. The first part will be down in the Eastview area. So there were some other neighbors who were going to come today, but maybe I represent them all. I'm not sure. But I wanted to speak just positively about the development and the fact that Chris and others are open to meeting with us and discussing any potential issues. That's it on my part.
all right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Anyone else in the audience here? Tommy, who do we have that's on Zoom?
We've got Joe Nassif with
Joe?
the Piper Sandler firm. They're the placement agent representing the commission in that capacity.
Yes.
All right, you've unmuted yourself. The public hearing is open, so your comments, and identify yourself for the record.
Yes, this is Joe Nassif. I'm Managing Director in Charleston, West Virginia office for Piper Sandler. And as Tom Mayman articulated and explained to you all, did a very good job. We're serving as the investment banker for the proposed TIF. We provided the commission with a letter that provides for some preliminary terms and also an analysis that shows the projected development is sufficient to support currently the amount of TIF obligations that we're seeking approval for in the TIF application. But if you all have any questions at all related to the TIF obligations and currently what is contemplated, feel free to ask me. Thank you.
All right. Let me ask the commissioners. Patsy, do you have any questions? David?
No.
Okay. No, I think Tommy and you have done a good job, so thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else on Zoom on this subject matter that wants to speak at this public hearing? If so, unmute yourself and identify yourself. All right, hearing none, then the public hearing is closed. Tommy, what action does you recommend for the county commission at this point?
So recommendation that the county commission adopt the resolution that's up for consideration, which authorizes the submission of this application to the development office.
Do you have signatures
I
that
do.
want to be required?
Yes, sir, I do.
All right. What's the pleasure of the county commission? All right, we have a motion to approve. Any further discussion?
One other thing I would note, the resolution also approves a construction bidding MOU that's required by the development office to be in place with the developer.
All those documents and signatures for the documents.
Yes.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Tommy, if you want to bring them, we'll
Okay.
sign what you need. And Chris, good luck. You've been working on this for quite a while.
Okay, these already have Mr. Lane's signature, so I'll get you to sign these.
You need it in blue or?
Yeah, I've got it. Well, you can use that, it's no problem. People get worried about what kind of pens they're using these days, these touch pens and all that stuff.
We send them over fax machines and they don't care.
Right. Can I get you on the resolution? This is the resolution that's being adopted. The signature page for the resolution. Three copies.
One, that's
This one.
the paper.
Yeah, well, this is we like to use the good stuff. Last one. Thank you. Thank you, sir. I'll leave one of each of these with you all, and
Anything
that's
else?
it. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving right along. Let's do the public comment period first, and then is David here?
Yes.
Okay, and then we'll speak with David, then we'll get you right after public comment. All right, public comment period. Jessica, who's first?
Mr. Matt Shepard.
I'm here to represent Green River Group. My name's Matt Shepard. I'm the project manager, mostly in regards to the meeting that happened last week, in regards to the power outage. It was portrayed that this power outage was not planned ahead, which was absolutely incorrect. It was planned well in advance. Per protocol, we worked with First Energy. They were supposed to notify all customers affected and give them a 5-day window. So basically, the timeline that I have is Thursday, October 29th. Sealing, the architectural firm that's representing you guys, and GRG met with First Energy to discuss the outage. The following day, First Energy excuse me, emailed GRG and Silling stating the first outage would be the week of November 9th. At this time, multiple outages were determined. Okay. So, the following Monday, November 2nd, First Energy emailed GRG and Silling stating that all customers have been notified of the outage on Wednesday, November 9th. That was the first outage. Tuesday, November 10th, which was last week, the outage was moved to Thursday because of the weather. So therefore, then we had the outage. So it was pre-planned and had plenty of time. So that's all I've got.
Okay, we thank you very much, and we'll make that part of today's record.
Thank you.
Tommy, are these your books up here?
There it is, okay. I want to leave that.
Thank you.
All right. Next public hearing, or public comment,
Emily Fisher.
Emily. Identify yourself for the record.
Emily Fisher with Olenbeck USA. Okay, so I want to follow up about the planned power outage last week. As the power was restored, it seems that we had some damage that occurred within our building to some of our equipment. There seemed to be a difficulty with the three-phase connection. They connected 1, 2, but when the third went to connect, there was a problem. So I have motors that are three-phase motors, and those motors were damaged in the process. I have a good sum of money that is now costing Olenbeck because of the planned power outage. I didn't come this morning. I know Jason's here to support me, and he'll speak as well. We're not here to point any fingers. I think things happen, but I was here last week to talk to you about communication and collaboration. So I think it's important that you realize, I have 2 motors with our HVAC system, I have a controller down, and I have an elevator down. I mean, I don't know if you know cost points here, but I have thousands of dollars wrapped up just in the elevator costs, let alone coming to, motors for heating and cooling units. You need to be aware of the damage that occurred. I think we should definitely talk about it, as well as the fact that our tenants also had damage to their equipment, those of which could not come today specifically, but they're facing out-of-pocket expenses because of this. So we asked for any support, help, and also this kind of contributes to the well-being of communicating further so we could better plan and we can avoid this. I know Mr. Parker did get back to me about there's no more foreseen outages at this point. I just want to reiterate that if there is, a better communication method also would obviously need to be needed, given the fact of the damage that's already occurred. And I have one whole side of my building that's 85 degrees right now. Imagine working in your office in 85-degree weather. That's been happening Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. And the problem is I have to locate those motors and then wait on the shipping process to get here. That's all I have.
All right, we will take that information, and I'm sure Mr. Parker will get back with you, reference claims or whatever. The Green River question, do you all have any planned shutdown or whatever with electric in the future?
No, sir, we don't.
Okay, and that's what we...
There will be in the future, though, for the next phase.
Okay, okay.
So since there will be another outage, we'll, correspond to find out, when that's going to be and better. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Who's next?
Jason Berger.
Jason, unmute yourself.
Good morning from Memphis, Tennessee. And thank you, commissioners, for your time. I work with Emily. I'm the head of operations for the company for Olenbeck USA. I heard what Mr. Shepard had said, and I understand that it wasn't on Green River to actually communicate with those affected. However, the first notice we received of the planned outage was in fact on Veterans Day, Wednesday the 11th in the afternoon, that the outage was going to be the next day on the 12th. And like I said, to expand on what Emily had said, we need about a week's notice. We have systems, our tenants have systems, we have county offices in our building, we have city offices in our building. We just can't, on a moment's notice, shut down our building or our tenants shut down their operations. A week's notice would be great so that we could properly prepare and mitigate any kind of damages, as well as communicate to all of our tenants what's going on. And, we're committed to the city of Clarksburg. We're committed to the county. We look forward to further redevelopment, which just will make everyone more successful and, of course, increase the tax base for the county and the city. So I thank you for your time, and we look forward to working through this together hand in hand.
Thank you, Jason. Who's next?
That's all. The other two were agenda items.
Okay. All right. Public comment period is closed. Consent agenda, what's the pleasure? Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. All right, David, you're next. Come on up.
Thank you.
Identify yourself for the record, and the floor is yours.
I'm David Houchin. I live on Glenwood Hill, and I work at the library. I've been there for about 30 years. And I handle historical questions. And I hope to continue doing that. I'll be fully and properly retired in a couple of months, probably, and I hope that I can still function in a capacity like this. I appeared here in August, the first week of August, and reported on what I was able to find quickly, and the commission requested material about the Jackson statue and how it got here. And I haven't learned a great deal since. The documentation we have is material the paper records of the committee to bring the statue to Clarksburg were archived by one of the committee members, Joe Burstein. And after Mr. Burstein's death, his widow gave those papers to the library. And we had not used them. They had been under lock and key for a while. And in response to the commission's question, I pulled them out and had a look. And I said, well, here's every piece of paper to do with bringing the statue to Clarksburg, all the way down to buying someone lunch in the cafe at the Stonewall Jackson Hotel, all the expenses. So in a way, we know more about this than practically any topic. But the narrative that's come out of all this is that a little before our entry into World War I, a sculptor in New York City, German-born, got a commission to create an equestrian statue of Stonewall Jackson to be displayed in Charlottesville. And the war happened. The process of getting this work done was slowed. But along the way, the sculptor consulted with a friend of his. This is one of those happy accidents. This fellow's name was Berkeley W. Moore, whose father had been a company captain and an acting major in the Stonewall Brigade during the Civil War. And young Mr. Moore was raised on stories about Stonewall Jackson. And he made some suggestions to the sculptor about some of the details in the portrayal of Jackson. And I always felt that he had sort of a proprietary interest in this piece of work. Now, the first thing that the sculptor did was create a sort of half-size or two-thirds size model of the proposed statue. And on the basis of that model, the molds were created and so forth, and the statue that's in Charlottesville was created and was formally dedicated, I think, in 1921. And so the model remained in the sculptor's studio, and at some point he cast that working model in bronze. It was admired, And the consensus was it had a better likeness to General Jackson than the monumental sculpture in Virginia. The sculptor hoped to sell it, but he didn't in his lifetime. So for several decades, the bronzed model sat in the sculptor's studio in Greenwich Village. And everyone involved grew older and older. And in the 1930s, Mr. Moore communicated to former Governor John J. Cornwell that there was this remarkable statue in the sculptor's studio in New York City, and it should come to West Virginia. And so around 1935, he took Governor Cornwell to the studio and let him see the statue, and Cornwell was impressed, and Cornwell began to solicit support to bring the statue to West Virginia and to install it at Jackson's Mill, which had been the general's boyhood home. The problem was the raising of the funds. It was in the middle of the Depression, and the fundraising attempt failed. The war came on. The project was shelved for a period of years. And then I think already in the spring of 1945, the advocacy started again. And Cornwell was again involved. And Jackson's Mill was suggested again, but there were problems with the funding. And somewhere at this point, a fellow in Clarksburg named Joe Terrell, who had been at one time the president of the State Board of Control, and at another period in his life had been the warden of the penitentiary at Moundsville, and was now retired from directing the interurban bus service in Clarksburg, which at that time was, the company was a subsidiary of Baltimore and Ohio. And so now Mr. Terrell had time on his hands that he knew everyone. I think he knew at least half the newspaper editors in the state and all kinds of people in government because of his years in government. And it occurred to Mr. Terrell that perhaps the statue could come to Clarksburg, and he began having conversations with people who might care. And a committee of 5 was created. Mr. Terrell, of course, Joe Burstein that I mentioned earlier, Max Sloan, a person whose name I'm forgetting right now, and Thomas Elkins Lee, who had the Coca-Cola distributorship here for many years, and had deep pockets apparently. And these people arranged a public meeting, and 30 people attended the public meeting and said, well, we must create a steering committee to go forward, and it was all naturally placed under the control of Mr. Terrell. This would have been at very early 1951. In the spring of 51, Terrell went to New York City, to Greenwich Village, went to the sculptor's studio, saw the statue and talked with the sculptor, and was told, you know, we've made an arrangement that this statue will go to VMI if the cadets can raise the funds to purchase it and bring it there, which was cold water on the Clarksburg plan, of course. And within just a few days of Mr. Terrell's visit, the sculptor died, and all this passed into the hands of his widow and executrix, Hannah Keck. And Terrell did not give up. He continued corresponding and visiting Mrs. Keck, and by golly, in December of 1951, the folks at VMI determined that the fundraising effort had failed. That's kind of a leitmotif in this story. The fundraising effort failed. And so VMI withdrew their claims, and that opened the way to the Clarksburg plan. And 2 prominent local businessmen who wished to remain anonymous committed $1,000 each to the project of bringing the statue here. And the local chapter of the United Daughters of the Confederacy committed a matching $2,000. And with this seed money, the committee began to solicit contributions. Many contributions, most of them tiny, many $5 contributions, some $25 contributions. The largest of the public contributions was only $300. They didn't raise a great deal of money, but what happened along the way was that the widow in New York City had arranged to sell the building and clear it out, and move permanently to her preferred summer residence, a place called Gypsy Trail. And so she had an incentive to get the studio cleared out so the property could be sold. And in the course of these discussions, and Mr. Terrell being a charming fellow, she signaled that the asking price, which I believe was $10,000 at that point, it wouldn't cost quite so much. A nod and a wink, because she had deadlines to meet and so forth. And in the end, she sold the statue to the steering committee of the local chapter of the United Daughters of the Confederacy for only $2,500. When BMI was supposed to pay, I think, $15,000, the asking price was $10,000, and somehow through luck or perseverance, we were able to acquire it for $2,500. And the granite base on which it's mounted cost another $1,500. The design work was done by Bill Grant, a local architect, and done pro bono. So the costs were actually rather minimal. And in October of 1952, when I was about a month old, the statue was shipped down from New York and placed in a warehouse that belonged to the Hope Gas Company. And there it waited until May of 1953, when it was installed on the courthouse plaza. And on Mother's Day in 1953, there was a grand public ceremony that it was called the unveiling of the Jackson statue. And wouldn't you know, Mr. Burstein preserved not only the paperwork to do with the acquisition of the statue, but also an audio tape of the unveiling ceremony. And we have that because we have the Burstein collection, and I have here several copies for the commission to do with as you please, transcribing the unveiling. And there's a little narrative I wrote that covers some of the things I was just saying, and actually covers them in a little better detail because I'm not in my best public speaking mode today. And also, there's a series of letters by Mr. Moore, the Jefferson County native, who was the promoter of bringing the statue to West Virginia from the very beginning. So that's what's in these envelopes. If anyone has a question about this, I could probably answer some of them.
All right. Any questions? Patsy, David.
Well, why did Carlton Woods try to stop it from coming on the courthouse side?
He had been one of the designers of the new courthouse, and he had a strong interest in preserving the original design. You know, the plaza, with the two areas that had trees and so forth. And in the background of all of this was the understanding that this statue, because it was a smaller scale statue, it had been originally a model, it was intended and suited for indoor display, not outdoor display. And everyone who has seen the statue had someone elbow and say, you know, it's really kind of small, isn't it? Well, it is, because it wasn't intended to be on the scale of a typical outdoor memorial, and Wood knew that. But as I say, he was committed to the design, and he felt that this was, that for technical, aesthetic reasons and matters of scale and so forth, it was the wrong location for the statue. There were others proposed. One of them was the public library lawn, you know, the lawn in front of Waldemore. And of course, you say that down at the library, people shudder. But it was understood that this would be a problem because the property belonged to the city, but there was a reverter that would allow it to go to the heirs under certain conditions. And the heirs were descended from a family of strong Union sentiment, and perhaps were not wishing to have a statue of a Confederate general on the library lawn. Also, as you know, in the West End, in front of Kroger's, there's a little triangular traffic island there, which has been maintained by the Staley Heights Garden Club for years and years and years. And there's a bench, and it always seemed really odd to me that someone would go out there in traffic and go down and perhaps sit down and just sort of maybe read the newspaper on that little bench in the middle of the traffic. But that's how it was designed. And although it surprises me to say it, that was one of the alternative sites for the Jackson statue. And the other idea was to put a sort of platform on the bridge there in the West End. And so the statue would be part of what you saw if you went across the bridge. They called it the Y bridge because of the way that it makes a Y there. And I don't think anything of these problems. In the middle of 1952, after it was already a matter of just getting the money and getting the details together, this controversy over location arose. And it wasn't resolved until the county commission took action on, I think, the 20th of November, 1952, confirming that the statue would be welcomed on the courthouse square. And so we have paper that tells, usually we have enough paperwork to understand about 3/4 of what was happening in these transactions. Mr. Highland at the publishing company and so forth was not too happy with a Confederate general on the courthouse plaza. And so the Chamber of Commerce and the JCs and whatnot were not contributing any enthusiasm or any actual support to this plan. And that doesn't get mentioned only in passing, but I think it probably was more important than something just mentioned in passing. So Mr. Wood stepped down from the committee and was replaced by Bill Grant, who was the architect who designed the statue's base. And on a lovely piece of granite from somewhere in Minnesota, I think.
Any further questions, David?
No, that was, I knew the gentleman, and I was just curious.
Yeah. Well, there were a number of little bits and pieces in this, and one of the threads that I haven't been able to pull, there was another statue in play. And the documents we have follow the process down to the installation of the statue we have. But there was another statue proposed. My friend Kathy Curry talked with a number of people, like Ed Segrist, for example, who was on the steering committee, and remembers that there was a fair agreement that there was another statue in play. And I had not heard of this. The documents we have just follow the process of getting this statue. And so there's anything that's on the periphery is just out of consideration. I'm hoping to find out what other statue this was. Just it's a footnote. But.
Mr. Harris was either our first official county commissioner administrator. I think Vernon was actually the first, right?
A different title, but.
Yeah, different title, right. But Jim was actually the official first county administrator. And I don't know, Jim, at that time, were we called county court or were we called commissioners at that time?
Called commissioners, but.
Commissioners, and I know in 1952, you probably weren't thought of, but the other statute, as I can recall, and probably during your tenure, didn't we give the city of Clarksburg the lone soldier that they have over there in front of their building? Wasn't that initially?
I thought that was at the VFW.
That was what?
I thought that was at the VFW. It moved up here from the VFW.
All right, I was
It moved a number of times.
Yeah, it's been around.
Yeah,
It was on the courthouse plaza initially.
I thought it was on the courthouse.
And then when City Hall moved into the Mortimer Smith House on Main Street, the statue went there. And then when that had to be knocked down to expand the Hope building, then it went, at some point it went to the Nathan Goff Armory. And I think it was from the Armory grounds that it came back to the municipal building.
At one time, I think it was here at the commission, wasn't it?
Well, it was on the courthouse square. It was dedicated in, I think, 1910.
Okay, you're right.
And it was intended to be a Union soldier.
Okay.
And it was the Grand Army of the Republic that put it together. But then at the last moment, they said, well, let's not, create any more controversy than necessary. And so they decided it was a monument to all soldiers.
Okay.
And not to the Union.
All right. Any other questions?
No, I just appreciate the research. I I think you've, done a great job. I don't like seeing as much of this posted on our website so that citizens of Harrison County can get a better idea of the history of how that happened and on Harrison County. I'm shocked that you were able to get so much detail into it. And
The thing, that, you know, the presentation of detail today was entirely dependent on Mr. Burstein, who was only a member of the steering committee, although I suspect he may have been one of the $1,000 donors. I think Mr. Lee of Coca-Cola Bottling, or his son Thomas Jr. were also. I mean, I've been communicating with the family historian in that family, and we're inclined to think that Mr. Lee Sr. and Mr. Lee Jr. were both prominent sponsors. The younger man was a member of the steering committee. And if you look through the donation records, there's no donation in their name. And, well, of course they made a donation. So what donation did they make that wouldn't have their name show up in the record? Well, he presumably is one of the anonymous donors. And I imagine Joe Burstein is the other. But he was always very proud of it. You know, he was born in Belarus in 1904 and raised in Virginia, where he became a devotee of the Civil War and the Confederacy especially. And then he graduated from New York University. And whether he ever stepped across the threshold of the sculptor's studio in Greenwich Village, I don't know, but I mean, he was in New York City at the time that the statue was there, you know, over the years, under a canvas in a sculptor's studio. And then he came to Clarksburg and ran women's clothing stores, you know, until his retirement. And he has a reputation as having been a social justice advocate, and exactly how he looked on the issue of the Confederacy versus Black Americans, because, you know, the stereotype of that. And there's no need for me to repeat it. But the United Daughters of the Confederacy had been prominent advocates of placing the descendants of Union soldiers and the descendants of Confederate soldiers on an even footing in America, as if there was nothing to be ashamed of, or there was nothing regrettable about allegiance to the Confederacy and so forth. And, you know, that was really what part of the monument campaign was about. Although this was very late in the day, you know, a statue installed as late as 1953. You know, by that time, the national organization of the UDC was no longer involved in placing monuments, and, you know, took no active part in that, although they had earlier. Most of the advocates of bringing the statue to Clarksburg and many of the participants in the unveiling ceremony were the sons of Confederate veterans themselves. Mr. Moore's father was in the Stonewall Brigade. The Bishop of the Episcopal Church in West Virginia, that would be the Right Reverend Robert E. Lee Strider. And a number of them, Judge Heyman from Fairmont, who gave the long address at the unveiling, son and grandson of men who were active in the Confederacy. And the idea that this was, again, the idea that this was largely a Confederate memory project was played down a bit. And the language on the base of the statue, you know, claims that, you know, the effort to bring the statue here was partly an effort on behalf of descendants of Union veterans, but they're not easy to find. So, you know, the political side of it is interesting, and it probably won't go away. I'm sorry. I know I've had more to say than I need to have said.
I mean, and I've read what you sent us, and it was very enlightening to read that. I really appreciate the effort you put into it.
So did I send that to you electronically?
Yeah.
Good. Because, you know, we don't claim any copyright in that. I mean, this is all work done by me as a public employee and so forth.
All right.
And I also brought notes on the costs,
Okay.
which I could just give those to Jessica.
Jessica. All right. Anything else, David? No. Sure enough. Thank you very much, David.
Well,
Appreciate you very much.
I wish that I had a better control of my tendency to go on forever.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on to the agenda again, payroll change notices. What's the pleasure?
David.
All in favor, say aye.
Information to leave for me. so I can-
Exonerations, correction, tickets,
Information
joint
to leave
property
for me.
application.
Have them put on the website.
Well, no, I sent those texts,
Okay, that's fine.
and for each of these envelopes has all three things in it. My little narrative, the transcription.
Did you want them to have that? Sure. Okay.
Oh, yeah. I bought half a dozen of them, I
But you
think.
did send me all this electronically, right?
I believe so.
Okay,
And, goodness knows, I have it on a flash drive in my pocket.
perfect. Thank you.
So I will leave those distributed to my.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Jessica, do we have any exonerations, corrected tickets, or joint property applications?
No, sir.
Consolidation of land, segregation of land.
No, sir.
Item 6 is consider approval of the project fund requisitions on the bonds up at Charles Point. Do we have anything
No,
to be signed?
no, sir.
Okay, good. Item 7 is review and discuss consideration of special funding request Lost Creek Community Festival for May the 15th, 2021. Have you researched everything in order and from past?
Everything is in order. We have all the documentation that we need. If you would like to add anything,
Other than the request is for the normal $2,000, right?
yes, sir.
All right, and it was changed from September to the May event due to the fact of the pandemic that we're in. So the show will go on one way or the other in May.
Move to approve.
All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Item 8 is review, discuss, and consider proposing the merger of Coons Run Public Service District into Greater Harrison, fixing a date of a public hearing on the proposed merger and providing notice of the public hearing. Ms. Sells.
On this one, I believe that, Mr. Todd Swanson should be on Zoom. Is Todd on Zoom?
What's that now?
Todd Swanson is supposed to be on Zoom.
Okay, Mr. Swanson?
This is simply just an order, to approve to set the public hearing, which I believe is on December 16th at 10 a.m.
Okay, I don't, Charlie is, Mr. Swanson, if you're on,
They can unmute themselves, so.
unmute yourself, then you have the floor. All right.
No,
No
Mr.
Swanson.
Swanson?
Ron, basically, this is just for us to set up to have a
Public
public
hearing.
meeting. So I'm just gonna make a motion for an order proposing the merger of Coons Run Public Service District into Greater Harrison County. Public Service District fixing a date of a public hearing on a proposed merger and providing a notice of public hearing, which will be Wednesday, December the 16th, 2020 at 10 a.m. at the Harrison County Courthouse, Commission County Commission Meeting Chambers, 3rd floor, 301 West Main Street, Clarksburg.
All right, Patsy, any comments, questions?
This is December 16th
Yes, sir.
at 10 a.m.
Yes, sir.
Is that a Tuesday?
That one and the other one.
Same time as that. Yeah.
What?
Okay. Okay.
All right, that's the motion.
And for commissioners to affix their signature to the document.
All right.
Where's the rest of it? It's a big packet over there with those four. On December 16th.
Motion to approve. All for say aye. All right.
Messed that up, Jessica.
Item 9,
That's okay.
review, discuss, consider resolution authorizing acceptance from funds from West Virginia Court Security Fund, adopting all special conditions and assurances contained in said application, committing sufficient manpower to the operation and management of all equipment and all other items requested, and need approval to accept the money and to affix our signatures. Any further? I know you're representing Gina. Anything, on that? It's what, $10,000? It's not a lot of money.
It's $12,549,
Okay,
and I believe, we just need Susan's signature, and you have those?
yeah.
Okay.
We need a motion to approve and, to fix signatures.
So moved.
We've already.
All right, any further discussion, Patsy? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Item 10, to review, discuss, and consider status of retirement and return to the job for Brian Lowder. So I think that's resolved, and Brian will be coming back to work one day, whatever the day certain is.
I'd like to table 11, considering Mr. Parker's not here.
Table which one?
11,
Table 11? Okay,
that's all right.
that's fine. Let's, Patsy, you wanna? All right, so, do you want, item 11, request table, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, any further on that? Item 12, review, discuss, and consider method of payment for property purchase of 609 West Main Street, purchased by the Harrison County Commission. Finance lease agreement with Harrison County, Development Authority. Ms. Sells.
This is just a discussion by the commission. Do you want to purchase it outright, or do you want to finance it?
What's
This
the
has
pleasure
been-
of the commission?
This has been, yeah, a follow-up discussion, so.
Patsy?
No, I do want to finance it. What was the total cost, Jeff?
You know, I'd have to get some of that information. I'll have to get that info. Hold on.
And is
It
it by a
should be
local
here.
bank?
Yeah, it's MBB, I think.
Yeah, it's MVB.
Like around 3 1/4 or.
Okay,
How much are we gonna ask for? Just the cost of the building, right?
I think it was the cost plus improvement.
Do we have to do the improvements in the cost? Can we do that? Can we just buy the building?
well, if you get the funds, you can always, if you want to approve the improvements or not, or it just gives you a little surplus.
It's, 400,000 at 2.74%, 72 months.
And that'll be because it's tax exclusion from taxes, that's why we got that interest rate.
Mhm.
Do you want to borrow the whole amount, or do you guys just want to borrow the cost of the building?
I can only say that, with the way things are moving on several projects, I would like to keep cash in-house for things that are going to go towards community development for jobs. So we're looking at 72 months.
Who came up with 400,000?
I don't know, I'm just looking at what has been handed me from,
That wasn't even in the packet. That's just information that I was able to find this morning when I was made aware that,
the building was
handling the
what,
meeting.
265?
Yeah,
We talked about 80, didn't we?
yeah, we did.
What's that,
345.
345?
Where did 400 come from? Any idea?
I apologize, Mr. Commissioner, I don't. I can get that info for you, though.
No, I want to buy the building, finance the building. I just want to see, I'd like to see how much it's going to cost us. And I followed Ron with what he said, but I think,
I think that this might be a passy till we get, something in from an architect to see what it's gonna cost to fix it. I guess it's better to, we don't need to borrow the 400, we wouldn't borrow the 400, we only borrow whatever it takes to buy the building and fix it up. I mean, I don't have a problem making that motion and capping it.
It's pretty good interest rate though, isn't it?
Oh, it's fabulous.
2.8.
And compliments to the administration on that.
mean, my motion would be to enter into a lease back with, development.
Development. Yeah.
Not to exceed the terms of 72 months from what I read here. And-
Yeah.
And a not to exceed, we can either say 4 or we can say 385, I don't know, that's whatever you want to put. But if we just put not to exceed the 4, then whatever it comes in at, we just, that's what we borrow.
265 is for the purchase, and the 135 would be needed for renovations, according to Mr. Parker.
If needed.
If, yeah.
Let me ask you this, is there a penalty to pay back if we don't use it?
Shouldn't be.
I wouldn't think so. You could probably pay it off early.
Yeah.
I'm almost certain we could just pay it off early, but I asked him that verbatim question, but I do believe the answer is no, and no, there is no payback penalty if we don't use it all.
Well, it seems pretty simple. If we don't need it, we don't need it, just give it back, or
Don't take it.
don't take it.
Yeah.
Just use it as a drawdown.
Add to your item that what we don't use, we do pay back. And what I'm doing is I'm protecting us from ourselves, that we'll have an extra $50,000, and it'll go into the black
Yeah.
hole called the general fund, and it'll just, yeah, if David makes that amendment, the way he said, that whatever we do not use in the remodel, we immediately give back, yes.
Yeah, any funds not used for remodel will be returned back.
Okay, cool.
But you capped it at
400.
whatever, 400 or
And
whatever.
let me ask you this again, where did this, we as a commission said 80, why did he go to 400?
I think it's just the fact that you don't know. It's that unforeseen when you go into remodeling. It's better to have it than not to have it.
Do we know what the value, the assessment's gonna be, or what the appraisal would be on that building?
It was appraised at $1 million.
Million
When
bucks?
it started, it was, yes.
That's what I have here.
So we got it for 265 or 300,000?
Mhm.
All right, further? Hearing none, that's the motion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Item 13, review, discuss, consider pipeline right-of-way easement and license agreement between Harrison County Commission and HG Energy. Ms. Sells.
We have, Ms. Schaefer is here, and Mr. Luke Thomas is on Zoom with HG Energy.
All right, let's see if we have any comments, and I'm assuming the recommendation, well, we'll hear the recommendation. Charlotte?
We met with HD Energy last week, and for what they're doing, we see no problem with that. They're going at least 10 feet under, so they won't be disturbing the trail at all. You all have pictures, where it's going across. It's also going under the trail, under 79, and coming back up the other side.
All right,
There's one gas line and 2 water lines.
okay. What's the pleasure? Recommendation is to approve. Is that correct from staff?
Yes.
All right, commissioners?
Is this just to lay a pipeline underneath,
Yeah.
and then, I guess the gentleman's on the line, and, I'm looking at section.
Yeah, there is someone,
Yeah, it's Luke.
who is it?
Luke?
All right. Unmute yourself, identify yourself, and the floor is yours.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is Luke Thomas with Jackson and Kelly, representing HG Energy. What we're asking for is one pipeline up to 24 inches, as well as 2 water lines to be bored under the rail trail, as well as it'll go under 79 as described by Ms. Schaefer. we've discussed with Ms. Schaefer, we've offered a $5,000 payment for this right. And we'd ask the commission to approve it so that we can continue further development in Harrison County of the natural gas resources.
All right. Any questions of Luke?
Luke, if I'm reading it wrong, please tell me, but it says that we're gonna grant you the right to go underneath under rights, but it also says that, we're granting you rights for below ground or above ground equipment, in this, agreement.
Yeah, the standard language there would permit certain equipment to be above ground if needed. I don't believe there would be any needed equipment in that area that would be above ground other than sort of the standard marks that may be required under any regulations that would require us to mark those. This line wouldn't need any different above ground things than the Dominion line that's about 150 feet to the north of where we're proposing this line go in.
Is there any reason we can't strike those issues in from the agreement so that we're not opening ourselves to equipment being set on the right of way?
Sure, we would be happy to explore that language with you. We'd certainly work with you to come to acceptable language on that.
Well, that's the only issue I have. Unless the other commissioners have any questions.
No. So,
That's,
David, if you want to approve it pending stipulating those,
if we can clean up A, which is under rights, it's just basically putting the pipelines under to maintain those pipelines, and I understand some of the other stuff, but when we start getting into the wording where you can go above the ground and start adding big traps, meters, pumps, risers, connections, measurement equipment, that's all above ground stuff, and I would just like to see that we could just clean it up and just make it exactly what it's for, to go underground.
all right?
Okay, and just so we're clear, we're asking for one line, the gas line to be up to a 24-inch line. It's expected to be 16, but we're asking for up to 24 in case we would need to increase that size. And then the two water lines would be 16 inches each.
That's fine. I don't have any issue with that.
Okay. But yeah, we can certainly, we can work with Mr. Parker and his staff and get that language cleaned up to your satisfaction.
Thank you.
All right. That, the pipeline's going on Bradbury, north of the north part of Lost Creek, or the south part?
South Park.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Yeah, okay. All right, any further questions? Patsy, how about the 5,000 going into your reserve account for only rail maintenance?
I'm glad you're leaving, Ron, you're starting that meeting with us.
Is that good?
Yeah,
All right, David, is that part of your motion?
Sure.
yeah.
All right, Susan, you able to
Thank you, Ron.
put it all together? All right. Motion to approve, all in favor say aye. Any further discussion? All right, thank you very much. Thanks, Luke.
thanks, guys. I'm going to step off the Zoom meeting.
All right. Item 14 is commissioners' comments. Mr. Treecost, I'll yield to you.
Two things. One, would you two gentlemen have any problem if we go ahead and do the promoting at the 911 center, even though we haven't hiring the backfill yet?
I don't have any problem, David.
It would
You
be a
got
payroll
any?
change notice on the 2nd of December is what it would be.
Have they already got a list? Or?
They already get promoted. It's already in line.
Oh, okay,
There's no question too. It's just a matter of doing it, and we've held them off because of hiring, and we're not hiring, haven't hired and pulling back individuals that we're gonna get promoted.
Does Brian's position coming back as captain have any thing?
I do not know. I do not know. But that would be something we could sort out on the 2nd, and at the same time promote from within to the individuals that are just following the chain.
That's fine.
I don't have a problem discussing it, but I really haven't seen anything been sent to me about it, and we're gonna talk about promotions so on. I'd also like to just go ahead and say, we're gonna talk about people I'd like for being out of the public and go into executive.
So basically, if you're a lieutenant, you're already in line for captain.
Yeah,
If you're a sergeant, you're in line for lieutenant.
We're not gonna discuss who's gonna take those positions.
I don't,
think I see what you're saying, David. I don't think it's, I think you just fall in,
yeah,
there's no testing or anything. I think it's, I mean, I'll do whatever you want on this, but
you may have 4 lieutenants that can go to captain. How do they select one of the 4 lieutenants?
is Jim on there?
Oh, Copenhaver, Jim Copenhaver or Paul Bump? Are you on Zoom?
Jeff, do you know how that works out there?
I would have to.
Jim's on there.
Who?
If
Jim's on there.
Jim would be able to.
Okay, Mr. Copenhaver, unmute yourself, please.
Ron, this is Jim. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Did you hear the questions that's been posed?
Yes, sir. In regards to your first thing about would Mr. Lowther's return create any unforeseen circumstances, the answer to that would be no. Director Bump and I have had discussions, and he would not. And the rest, as Commissioner Treecost said, for the majority of it, it's just a matter of a 3, 3, and 3 at that point. Captains, lieutenants become captains, sergeants become lieutenants, corporals become sergeants, and then we would need to go through a process of filling in the corporal positions from the ranks of frontline dispatcher.
Jim, I reckon the question that David asked is, out of the lieutenants that you have that's going to be moving up to captain, how do you choose what's your criteria for promotion from those individuals to that position?
Well, we're in a fortunate position to where not only do we have qualified people for those positions, we don't have an excess. It would be, as Mr. Treecost said, a 3, 3, and 3. We don't have 4 lieutenants going for 3 captain spots. We would have 3 captain spots available with the moves that we presented to the commission weeks ago, where we would have 3 lieutenants go to 3 captain spots, 3 sergeants go to 3 lieutenant spots, 3 corporals go to 3 sergeants, and then from the ranks of frontline dispatcher, with discussion with the commission office that we've had in the past, come up with a process to move 3 people from the rank of telecommunicator to corporal.
So what you're saying is you don't have any surplus of qualified individuals. You have just the same number of vacancies that you have individuals available to move up for promotion.
Yes, sir. Under the current plan, it would be a 3, 3, and 3, again, as Mr. Treecost said.
Are you increasing any from, are those actual vacant positions to make the move, or?
Yes, sir. Those are, we are not creating any positions. We are renaming 2 previous ones. We are not creating any additional supervisory positions.
All right, David?
I'm still trying to grasp how it's an automatic promotion.
Okay.
Let's have discussion of the qualifications of the person.
We are open for discussion at any point in time.
Can we make it a pending payroll change, pending the executive session? And Jim, would you mind on the 2nd coming to the courthouse?
I will be there.
Is that okay? Jim, we'll just put it in front of an executive session if we can vote on something.
That's fine. You work for you, you don't work for him, remember. You want him here, you got him here. That's fine.
Yeah.
All right,
Okay, thanks, Jim.
thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
It's been a long time since 911 days when you were there, right?
We didn't have that many people across the board.
Yeah.
9 officers.
All right, that was one question. You have another one?
I got one more. The 14-member board, that's gonna meet tomorrow, 8 are expired. Can we move that meeting so we can let the newspaper, everybody know, and get you swear those 8 in so that a quorum can be established?
Yeah, which, that's for, which group, I'm sorry?
That's for Mike Jenkins and his group.
Oh, okay, for Development Authority?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, that we reappointed,
Yeah,
they're still in good standing until,
No, they expired, they,
yeah, but the expiration doesn't stop them from being on the board
Right.
until we replace them. We do this with all kinds of boards where people have run beyond their term.
you're telling me an expired person can vote on a board?
yeah. As a matter of fact, the way the statute reads is that you continue to be appointed even after your term is up until you're either replaced or reappointed.
Let me ask you something, Ron, wouldn't it just be easier if staff reappointed people when they came due?
Well, that's the best way, but there are times when, you know, it's not, our PSD, any of our boards that we actually appoint someone. Charlotte, do you know what the statute is on that? And Jim, you've been, previous county administrator, you might,
Anybody who's appointed to a public board of the county commission continues to serve even if their term of office is expired until they're either reappointed or replaced.
replaced or
That's what
reappointed.
the code used to say, I don't think it's changed.
It's still the same.
Yeah.
Jim, you just let terms expire?
No, we always brought them before the county commission.
But
and
the
asked them
problem
when they
with
expired.
this group is each city has to nominate, and we've always had issues with the cities trying to nominate somebody
Yeah.
for us to approve.
Of course, we have
Probably
5
the
or
hardest
6
board.
appointments on that board, I think.
Yeah, it's probably the hardest board to get people.
That particular board has always been challenging.
Yeah.
Common service districts are easy, they're your appointments, nobody gives you recommendations.
Well, let me ask you this, and I'm, good, what you told me, can we work on that? Make a phone call.
So they have a city council meeting and the city council finds.
Do we know whether there are actually county commission appointments? I know we approve them all,
We approve them all.
but we have a certain number that the county commission does themselves. And then you have Bridgeport, Clarksburg, Shinston. You know who they are, Patsy?
Yeah, I'll get it.
I think, Hazel can probably give you a list, like she or Jackie,
Yeah.
have taken them.
Well,
That's something that they're working on.
Okay. That's something they're working on to update.
Mhm.
I would think anybody that, that we have on there now, if they want to continue, why wouldn't we?
Oh, I agree.
Yeah, why wouldn't we,
Well, maybe we could swear them in tomorrow.
make that motion?
You can swear them in, Patsy.
Oh, no, I mean, that's why we have people in the courthouse, that's why we have her. I mean, anybody can do it. And it works with easy. Susan, can you swear them in tomorrow? And then what time the meeting is? Not that easy.
What time's the meeting?
Other deputies that can do the same thing,
Yeah.
but you gotta have, we gotta have their oath.
What time's the meeting tomorrow? Development Authority meeting.
The only thing on my calendar that Willie placed there was, it's in the afternoon, I'm trying to unlock my phone to see. So if there's something at 9, I'm not aware of it.
Yeah, 9 o'clock.
Okay.
What I have on
Well,
my calendar. But it's not, you don't really have to re-swear them in because they're still sworn in from the first time.
Okay.
Right.
Just get it straightened out, then go from there.
They can conduct their meetings.
Yeah.
You have to figure out who has expired and who you need to redo.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we have the same issue with PSDs if they don't send somebody back and they don't vote on it, it's
It is 9 a.m.
yeah.
All right. What's the pleasure, Pat?
No, there's no pleasure, just,
All right.
just was
If you're attending the meeting tomorrow, it is a valid meeting. Okay? The members there, I reckon it's a matter of having a majority, right, there to conduct the meeting
That would
as
be-
formed.
that would be it.
Yeah. All right, any other questions? Pat?
Nope.
David?
Just a update, Harrison County has now had 895 total cases of COVID. We've got 31 new and 108 active. So I think Jim will vouch that he's doing a lot of testing, but I don't think we're doing much to slow the spread down in Harrison County. And, the health department has asked us to resend out their press release to as many people as we can to get everybody to understand what's going on in our county and surrounding counties as far as the spread of COVID.
I think the contact tracing piece is becoming very cumbersome for the health department. They reached out to say, all right,
Well, I think we're getting so many active cases that that's turning into a,
very trouble.
yeah. I think, noticed that from, 911 report that they're having issues trying to keep track of all of it to notify the first responders that they're going into a potential virus infection. So, the thing's growing, and anything that we can help the health department with, we need to, the commission needs to step up with it. That's all I have.
All right. I have nothing. Anything else? Hearing none? Motion to adjourn. All in favor, say aye. We're adjourned.